Last time, we delved into the shadowed courts under Payman's throne, witnessing the rise of the Queen of Harlots, a figure of immense power and seduction. But today, we ascend from the depths of a single infernal court to witness an event that will forever scar the very fabric of our world. This is Chapter 7, The Blood Moon Covenant, 72 Bound Souls. For generations, the grimoire lay dormant, its leather cover cracked with age, its pages filled with names that sensible folk dared not pronounce. It spoke of a ritual, a forbidden pact so audacious, so utterly catastrophic, that even the most depraved sorcerers considered it a myth. The Blood Moon Covenant, a ritual not to summon one demon, but to bind them all 72. Our story begins with a man known only as the Vessel. He wasn't a king or a high priest, just a scholar driven by a thirst for knowledge that bordered on madness. He had spent his life deciphering forgotten texts, piecing together the fragmented instructions for the ultimate summoning. He believed he could control them, that he could harness the power of hell itself and reshape reality to his will. He was, of course, tragically mistaken. He chose a night when the moon hung in the sky like a freshly weeping wound, casting a sickening crimson glow upon the world. In a desolate field, far from any prying eyes, he inscribed the grand summoning circle. It wasn't a single circle, but an intricate lacework of 72 interlocking sigils, each one a unique key to a specific infernal prison. The air grew cold, heavy with an unnatural stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. As the blood moon reached its zenith, the seals on the ground began to pulse with a faint, angry light. The Vessel stood at the epicenter, the ancient grimoire open in his hands. He began the incantation, his voice steady at first, but soon trembling with the sheer weight of the words he spoke. And then it started, a whisper. It was not one voice, but a chorus, a legion of whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Baal, Agers, Vasego, Gamagan, Marbus. The names echoed in his mind. 72 distinct voices speaking as one, a symphony of damnation. Each name was a promise of power and a threat of ruin. The seals on the ground flared brighter, their light no longer faint, but a blazing inferno of scarlet energy. The Vessel's body, the very instrument of his ambition, became the nexus for this unholy convergence. He was no longer just a man. He was the focal point, the conduit, the very vessel for the Covenant. He screamed as he felt his consciousness being torn apart, shredded by 72 ancient minds, all vying for a foothold in his soul. That's when he saw the book. The ink on the page, detailing the names of the 72, began to liquefy. It turned from black to a deep, dark red, the color of old blood. It didn't just drip. It seeped from the parchment, defying gravity, crawling up his fingers and onto his arms. It moved like a living thing, a torrent of cursed ink that burrowed into his skin, merging with his own lifeblood. It wasn't just writing on a page anymore. It was now writing itself into his very DNA. His screams twisted into sounds not meant for a human throat. He spoke, but the words were not of any earthly tongues. They were the languages of fire and shadow, of forgotten empires and fallen angels, the native speech of hell itself. Each syllable was a key turning in an ancient lock. His eyes, once filled with ambition, now glowed with the combined malice of 72 demonic princes, dukes, and presidents. He was the summoner, the lock, and the key, all at once. The moment the final blasphemous word was uttered, the circle exploded. It wasn't a sound you could hear with your ears, but a concussion you felt in your soul. A wave of crimson light erupted from the ground, vaporizing the grass, scorching the earth, and painting the sky in shades of blood and midnight. For a moment, there was absolute silence, a terrifying void where all sound had ceased to exist. Then, the ground began to shake. Not a gentle tremor, but a violent, bone-jarring quake, as if the planet itself was trying to tear itself apart. You could hear it then, a sound from deep within the earth, the groan of ancient metal, the snap of chains that had held fast for millennia. The prisons were breaking, the gates were falling, the soil beneath the scorched circle began to churn. First, a skeletal hand, then another. Claws scrabbled for purchase. Forms made of nightmare and solidified shadow began to crawl from the newly opened fissures in the ground. They were the legions, the foot soldiers, the forgotten horrors that served the 72. This wasn't a summoning of a single entity. It was an invasion. The blood moon no longer seemed to just hang in the sky. It felt as though it had descended, merging with the horizon. The crimson light bled across the land, swallowing the stars, chasing away any hint of dawn. The sun would not rise, not today, not tomorrow. The ritual hadn't just summoned demons, it had pulled a piece of their realm into ours. The night, for this corner of the world, had become eternal. The vessel, or what was left of him, stood amidst the chaos. His body was a twisted effigy, a shared throne for 72 masters. He was their anchor, their gateway into this plane of existence. Through his veins, the pact was flowing. Through his eyes, they saw a new world to conquer. Through his mouth, they issued their first unified command. The Blood Moon Covenant was complete. The contract was signed in blood and sealed in madness. Hell was no longer a distant threat or a whispered legend. Now, Hell listens, and it has answered. The world has been irrevocably altered. The 72 are no longer bound, and their influence begins to seep into the darkest corners of human hearts. But in this new age of despair, not all of Hell is uniform in its malevolence. There are whispers of a different kind of power, a demon who walks a path of strange compassion. Next time, we will explore this paradox as we uncover the story of Boer, the healer of Hell, and a journey into mercy in madness. Thank you for joining us on this descent into darkness. If you found yourself captivated by this tale, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. Until then, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.